It's Wednesday. We are back. It's MMAjunkie Radio, October 4th, 2017 edition. I am Goes. To my left is Dan Tom, Danny in New York, and Gorgeous George patching through via the codec machine. How's everybody doing today?
Good, good.
Pretty good.
Good.
Both Dan's answered at the same time.
Popeye?
That's all right, Dan squared.
Popeye, when Popeye's not like solving mysteries or whatever it is he does, he's really weird. Like nobody ever addresses that. And his buddies are not really saving the day either, like Wimpy and the hamburgers and all that.
Yeah.
If he's not,
I would have to go back and see because I don't remember what he really used to do other than
wait a minute,
stick up for olive oil.
That's what I'm saying.
Eat a burger or eat spinach and then beat up Bluto, right? He'd get bullied first.
If he's not doing any of that, then overall, he's still wearing the sailor outfit, and people are like, "Dude, you haven't been on a ship in years."
Yeah.
He's doing the one-eyed thing, right? The squint. He's smoking.
Yeah.
And
he lost his teeth from alcohol.
Yeah, he really just doesn't talk much. You know, it's just little short things that he says. So for the most part, people were like, "Oh man, you're bringing Popeye to the barbecue."
Yeah.
Unless something goes down, then you go, "Oh, thank God Popeye was here." And then you can't. It's not even like you could go, "Hey, but he brings that hot chick," because olive oil just looks like a stick, right?
I don't think
it looks like a broom.
I don't think Popeye
is
would.
the hamburger guy his friend? I never drew that connection.
Dude, that guy
Wimpy's
looks.
That's his friend,
isn't it?
Today would be the best day for Wimpy to approach Popeye because he's got a whole week
2 minutes
to pay him back for the burger. Tuesday was his day.
Oh, it's Tuesday. I thought it was Wednesday. Wait, I'll
gladly pay you back next Tuesday. Right?
That's right.
Oh, that's right.
For a hamburger today.
But today's Wednesday.
Right, so today's the best day because he's got a whole week. If he asks for one on Monday, Popeye goes, "All right, bitch, I'm coming up. I'm knocking on your door tomorrow, though." That doesn't give Wimpy much time.
That's true. Wimpy would have 7 days. He's hoping people forget by then, and then he just moves on to the next guy.
Exactly.
So Popeye's Circle, Popeye's just really weird. That's a weird cartoon. I don't know how it got pitched, and then somebody said, "Dude, this is amazing."
What about shows like BJ and the Bear? Now there's something I can get behind. A man and his monkey.
I remember that one. He always used to have hot chicks too.
What is this show that you speak of?
It's before my time and before our time, Danny.
You brought it up.
Yeah,
it was a little time called before the 80s. Well, I was quoting the movie Mallrats. You guys ever seen Mallrats?
Tom goes, "Oh, BJ and the Bear was great." Danny Elkers goes, "What was it?" He goes, "I don't know. It was before my time."
I was quoting the movie Mallrats. There's a concept I can get behind of. There's a concept I can stand behind. A man and his monkey.
A man and his monkey.
Go see Mallrats.
Well, that trucker monkey thing's always been a thing because Clint Eastwood he did a series of movies. What was the name of the movie? Where he'd get in fights.
I know what you're talking about. It's another name.
It was a classic back in the
days.
But he always had a monkey. BJ had a monkey. And I don't know. But
we need a monkey, guys.
I think Showtime has a little monkey. Has ever thought of having a little monkey or a dog on the road with them?
I've seen a guy with an iguana, a truck driver with an iguana.
Yeah, I bet you have.
All right, guys, going up in 10. Stand by. I think truck drivers should have dogs. Just like hanging out with a dog.
Nah, they're too hyper.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMAjunkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is gonna be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMAjunkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMAjunkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMAjunkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMAjunkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMAjunkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook and an undisclosed location in Mountain's Edge, Las Vegas, you are listening to the MMAjunkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. The guys back in studio, Dan, Tom, Goes, and of course back east, Danny Oakers rounding out the team. What's up, guys?
What up?
What's good?
Not much. Good to be back. It's fight week. UFC 216. Ferguson versus Lee. Demetrius Johnson versus Ray Borg. Anxious to get to Saturday to watch these two title fights along with all the other fights that are here. So pretty stoked. You know, fight week definitely raises the ante, the bar of the show, and I'm just glad it's here. During the pre-show, we were talking about truckers and their monkeys.
And Popeye.
We talked about a TV show called, and Popeye, BJ and the Bear, and I mentioned Clint Eastwood had a movie that had different parts to it. You know, it was a series, and it was Matt Erickson bailed me out. It was called Every Which Way But Loose.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to say that now and give a shout out to Matt. Because otherwise we'd forget. And there's a lot to cover. We're going to have John Tuck co-hosting the show as well. UFC lightweight. He'll be in studio, hopefully joining the fellers soon. And we'll have two other guests headed your way in the names of Dewey Cooper, who coaches Kevin Lee, along with Robert Follis. Kevin Lee, the headliner at UFC 216. Paul Felder, who will be calling the fights back in L.A. as part of the Fox Sports broadcast team. He'll also join us, so it should be a fun show. We open up our phone lines, 866-522-2846. I do want to start off by saying something, and then moving on from it. Hopefully you can all cooperate. Obviously, our thoughts and prayers are with those affected by the tragic event that took place in Las Vegas on Sunday night. And as you all know, it really hit home to the Junkie Radio team, and of course, you know, all of our friends and family, you know, living in Las Vegas. But you all, I know, should know the tie-in just by listening to the show. You know where we broadcast from. However, at this point, we are going to decline comment on anything in relations to it, because for one, I believe we're starting to, you know, repair, move on. Obviously, there is a grieving period for many, and again, our thoughts and prayers are with everybody out there that was affected by it. And there's still many people that are aside from those that are no longer with us, there are many people that are still in the injured stage, and obviously we're pulling for everybody to pull through. But please, I know it's a call-in show. Don't fault us, please, for moving on from the topic. It's just that's just the best way for us to go. That's the best direction for us to go. But just know that we appreciated all of your messages. We got them all. We hopefully got back to everybody, and if we didn't, we will. They meant a lot. And I'll let the guys say something now if they'd like to. But again, moving forward, it's just something that we're going to put off to the side, and we don't mean it in any form of disrespect. It's just it's a decision that we made earlier today. Goes and Dan, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, absolutely. I just I co-sign with everything George just said, and I just want to say how proud I am of friends, family, and more so just the Las Vegas community in general. I think a lot of people outside of Las Vegas look at us as a bunch of people that are just running around, having a great time, doing crazy things, and it's not really like that. I mean, aside from our job here, we don't really visit the Strip that often as people would imagine, but to see our community come together the way that it has was really, really touching, and I'm very, very proud of everybody here, all the first responders, all my friends and family that did so much during this situation. So that's all I wanted to say. You, Dan?
Yeah, you guys both nailed it. You know, I'll be obviously following suit with that approach, like Gigi said. I'm glad that Goes mentioned that aspect about Las Vegas. I don't think people really put that human factor here. It's easy, even as me as a Las Vegas, it's easy to you know, jokingly kind of, you know, trash Las Vegas. But it's been nice to see the community really come together, and yeah, my heart's broken, you know. But I'm going to carry on, be strong. We're going to do the show today. But just so y'all know, listening, my door is always open.
All right. Well, again, the phones are open at 866-522-2846. And please reach out to us, if there's anything you would like to discuss. I think a lot of you know how you can do that, whether it's via social media or if you have our personal info, that's fine too. But now we'd like to carry on with doing the show. And also, as far as I know, Goes put a 1% doubt in, but if I'm not mistaken, I checked up on this one more time. The passing of Tom Petty, I think one of the true great American musicians, a personal favorite of mine. He passed away as well, except I guess there was some reports that came out where he was still fighting for his life. And through follow-up, I believe I saw that he has passed. Goes asked me this morning, and I was trying to scramble just to make sure, but I believe that is the case. So what a loss, because I was really a big fan, and when I saw that he was touring again, I really wanted to get to a concert. Not because I felt, his time might be up or nothing like that, just because I think I've learned a lesson with Michael Jackson, Prince, and other artists who you, I guess, take for granted, feel like they're going to be around, and if you don't catch them on tour this time, maybe next time. And now I try and make a better effort. And Goes had actually treated me to a Tom Petty concert years ago. It was in conjunction with the Strokes, his favorite band. He wanted to see the Strokes more, but obviously that 1-2 punch was nice. And we got out there and we checked it out. I remember where I had a good time, and of course you guys have heard Tom Petty a few walkout songs, most notably with Chris Weidman. I don't know too many people that dislike his music, but such terrible news back to back like that.
Yeah, for the longest time too, at the beginning of when we were Tag Radio, and it even floated in a little bit to MMA Junkie Radio, we would end our show with "Don't Come Around Here No More." Remember that? So I think maybe today that'd be a fitting way to end our show.
Yeah, that's a good one. And boy, it could use a... sorry, go ahead, Gigi.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ted.
Oh, no, I was going to say, could use a Chris Weidman walkout this weekend to get everybody pumped. How awesome would that be if he was fighting this weekend? But two, I'm like what Gigi said, I'm glad I actually got to see Tom Petty. I was able to see him in Bonnaroo 2006 back in Tennessee, and he brought Stevie Nicks on. They actually guested some songs together.
They did the same thing at the one we went to.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's cool.
Stevie.
Yeah. I passed on a list to Danny, and hopefully we have more some of those songs. It was kind of cool as I was preparing for the show last night. I kind of had him on like a loop of songs of his best, and wow, I couldn't believe that really, really has a lot of great classics that even if you're not a fan, you'll just recognize and appreciate. So hopefully we can play some of those throughout today's show, maybe even through the week. All right, folks, UFC 216 happening this week. It's going to be a fun week for us because aside from the fights, here are a couple things that are happening. Fight TV's been really great to the Junkie Radio show, and we got 2 more streams to give away.
Awesome.
I just got the news this morning, so it's got a value of $60 there. Mm-hmm. You don't have to pay for the pay-per-view. You can watch it on Fight TV, and I didn't get the feedback on the second show, but I know the first show had some notables in there, like Carlos Condit chatting with people. So from what I've heard, everybody's had a blast, and this is just an opportunity for you to win a free stream. So we will give you details. Who knows? You got to pay attention. We may give away one today, but for sure we got 2 to give away before the weekend. Speaking of the weekend, on Saturday, myself and Goes, Dan, Tom, we will be in studio, and we will be doing a fight companion type of broadcast on Sportscaster. We did this for Mayweather and McGregor, and now they've asked us to return, so we're going to come back and do it. And now, from what I'm hearing, Goes can possibly co-sign. We have our setup. We'll be able to use our mics, our cameras, so it won't just be us two pinheads, in the same shot. I think we'll be able to relax a little bit and be with you all for the whole main card on Sportscaster, and we're probably going to turn the Facebook on as well and kind of give you a little bit of a warm-up and be with you for that main event of the fight that's delivered via Fox Sports. So it should be fun on Saturday. For those of you that aren't ordering it, you can hear us react to it. And if you are ordering and you still want to hear us react to it, join the party. It's going to really, really be a good time.
Yeah, thank you very much to the people at Sportscaster. They've been phenomenal in helping out. And Cold Coffee Kenny came in this morning, and we made some adjustments. The first show that we did, we actually used the webcam from our laptop. So George and I were kind of smushed together a little bit. But we were able to connect the setup that we have here in the studio. So when you watch this Sportscaster edition, it'll look more like the MMA Junkie Radio show because you'll see that same kind of camera setup, and we'll be able to do multiple shots and overlay some graphics if we need to onto the broadcast. And Dan Tom will be here as well, so it'll definitely be different than what we did the first time, but it'll be a lot of fun. And I was actually shocked, George, the first time that I thought it was just going to be people who didn't order the pay-per-view that would be watching us. But a lot of people that did order the pay-per-view turned down the volume and just listened to us. So if you want to give that a try, I mean, you're not going to find more hardcore fans, media, whatever you want to call us, than here at MMA Junkie Radio. We'll definitely have a good time, and definitely tune in because this is going to be a blast, and hopefully we keep doing these in the future.
For sure. Big shout out to Ronaldo Afghan in the YouTube chat, as well as James Ortega, who sometimes gets on my nerves, but he's in there every day. I got to appreciate that and thank him for that. Sometimes he just butt heads with people. His prediction is Kevin Lee gets knocked out in the 4th row. Not even the 4th round, in the 4th row. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if after beating Tony Ferguson, he's walking out, high-fiving someone in the 4th row and someone knocks him out, or if Tony Ferguson hits him so hard that Kevin Lee winds up in the 4th row. He needs to be a little bit more specific with the trash talk, but regardless, I think I get what he's saying. He's not a Kevin Lee fan. Man, you know what, guys? The Ferguson and Lee, I really like interviewing both guys. Ferguson for many years has really pumped us up. He's a SoCaler guy. I've rooted for him. And in this fight, this fight is just one with two guys that we've covered extensively, but it's no secret. I think we've spent a little bit more time with Kevin Lee in these last few years, but I will say this. I'm not looking for a reason to dislike Tony Ferguson, but boy, his personality's changed. I mean, he's kind of like a fuck the world type attitude lately. A little bit, I'll tell you what, I kind of felt for that Matt Serra interview on UFC, what do they call it? Undisputed? What's the name of the show? Unfiltered?
Filtered, yeah.
Unfiltered. I fell for it the first time. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but Tony Ferguson did an interview with Matt Serra. And now listen, I gotta, I don't know if Jim Norton was trying hard or to sound like Tony Ferguson, or if he just winged it, or if somebody in the past has told him, at times you kind of sound like Tony Ferguson. But I'll tell you what, when he started off early on, my attention was focused more on the fact that he kind of did sound like him. And I'm not sitting there like a detective trying to dissect anything, because why would they be trying to troll their audience or anything? So as I'm getting through the interview, I'm focused more on the back and forth, not like, hey, is that really Ferguson? Does he sound like that? Would he say that? It really just sounded like maybe there was some dislike there, Maybe one guy just didn't really want to be on the other show, so he felt like being a dick. So I'll admit it, I fell for it. But it's funny because on the UG and on social media, man, there's like 99 out of 100 that knew all along and didn't fall for it. I'm like, stop trying the cool act, I think there's got to be more people that fell for it like me, and I'll be the first to admit I fell for it. Now, when I went back and heard it after that post went up on MMA Junkie, I laughed my ass off because you could pretty much clearly tell it was Jim Norton. But now, of course, my focus was there. But man, that was an excellent practical joke that Jim Norton pulled on Matt Serra. Did you guys catch that?
I didn't catch it until later, and I still haven't been through the whole thing. But yeah, that's pretty good, man. That's pretty funny, and Matt's a sharp dude. So if you get one over on him, there's definitely a little bit of street cred there.
Yeah, definitely. I want to welcome to the show John Tuck, UFC lightweight, joining us as a co-host today. Obviously, we'll ask him about everything that's going on with him, but we'd love to have him share his thoughts on these fights that are coming up and, of course, the MMA landscape in general. Welcome, John. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you to have
Awesome, man. Thanks for joining us here on the show today. We really appreciate your time. You're in town to corner Benil Dariush, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Benil flew me out from Guam to help him out and everything with the final preparations for this fight. So I'm just honored to be in his corner.
And how's he looking?
Oh, he's looking great, man. Faster than ever, sharper than ever, and you know, the best he's ever looked so far. So I'm excited about that.
How's the weight? Now, usually cornermen and coaches, sometimes the one thing that'll hold them back from coming and doing the show like you're doing today is, hey, I just want to make sure his weight's on, you know, because a lot of times the cornermen will go in the sauna or run on the treadmill. But is everything okay on that front? Is Benil doing good?
Oh, yeah. He's got it down to a science. He's a professional on that aspect. I picked up some few tips from him as well that's made the weight cut for me easier as well. So I understand that it's not going to be an issue for him.
Yeah. How do you not get wrapped up? I mean, because now you're immersed in the fight world again, but you're not fighting. Like, how do you keep your emotions in check? Because I probably think you probably want to jump right in there as well, right?
Oh, yeah. You know, just for me, it's just about conserving the energy so that I can give it and pass it to him as well. So just not overreacting or anything like that. You know, you don't want to get over emotional. Just, of course, get excited and be like, yeah, we're about to get down in a scrap. But, you know, just got to give him the good energy.
Is it true what they say about fighters are usually more nervous cornering their buddies or watching their buddies fight than it is when they're actually fighting?
Oh, I think so. I definitely feel that that's part of the game. You know, it's like you're trying to play a video game. Oh, do this, do that, do this, do that. But I mean, you know, when it boils down to it, you can only just guide and give some direction from the outside what you see. There's things that you see from the outside that they don't see inside, you know, whether it be an angle or a certain movement. But they did everything that, you know, we do everything that we to our best ability to set up for the fight in that way to execute on fight night.
You play a lot of video games by any chance?
I used to play a lot of video games growing up.
What are some of your favorite memories of games?
Man, as far as I can remember is...
Like, what's your first system?
I believe I had an Atari, but you know, I was too young. Yeah, I think I was too young to even remember exactly, like, actually
You're
getting down. Yeah, I'm OG, bro.
That's what's up.
I mean, the only way you could have topped it is if you would have said, I played Pong back in the day.
Yeah, Pong. That one. Yeah, Pong.
The two little bars.
Yeah, the two joystick, whatever. But that and one I could actually really remember is the Super Famicom. And right before the Nintendo came out, the Super Famicom.
Damn, John. So if somebody said you don't want to mess with John in this game, what would it be? What would have been your like go-to? Like back in the day, I was the Tecmo Bowl king. Man,
I used to play a lot of, because there wasn't so much online gaming, right? Back in the day, it was I mean, as far as I remember, Halo was spend countless hours just wasting.
And
you?
No, man. More Street Fighter 2 and stuff.
Street Fighter 2 too as well. Yeah,
classic, right?
I mean, the only time growing up was meeting somebody in an arcade and trying to show them up. You know, I mean, whether it was like in Korea or in Japan or you know what I mean. Growing up as a kid, you gotta just meet them in the streets.
What was did you ever have any stories in that arcade? Any things get out of hand?
No. I just used to remember these. I just remember that these freaking. I was the younger kid, you know. There's a lot of like the OGs, right? The actual OGs there, and they're trying to like hustle you or whatever. Hey, give me $1.
Oh, yeah.
Or yeah, just. I mean, I used to be in the arcades like since 6 years old. So I'm like, I've been back in there, and they used to try to power check me to take my spot. I'm like, just a kid, you know.
Damn.
I mean, at the time, I was just like looking up these giants, like.
You remember putting the quarter on? That means you got next, right?
Yeah.
I always wanted, back when they would do the press conference with all the fighters, for one fighter to grab a quarter and go up to the champion and put it right by his nameplate. That quarter and just say, I got next. Something like that. But
I got next.
Never happened, man.
Well, I mean, you know, that could happen.
Yeah?
I mean...
Sounds like John Tuck was playing out of the same arcade in Terminator 2 when Arnold Schwarzenegger tries to find John Connor.
Yeah.
Dude, that's an old school game too, bro. Shit. I just thought of that right now. But yeah, I just used to see like street fights. I mean, arcade fights. You know, that was the funniest thing. You know, just people getting all butthurt about them not winning their match. And
did you ever see people cheating? Did you know you could cheat at the arcade games back in the day?
The only way I knew you could cheat is when you drill a hole in your quarter or the token, and then you put a fish wire.
Oh shit!
Fish wire, and you tie it, and then you drop it in, and then there's like a little piece of like a, what is it called,
like a switch or something?
Yeah, like a switch when you drop it in.
The handle.
Yeah, and
exactly.
And
so then you pull the quarter back up, and you can give yourself credits.
I didn't know
what's up.
That's what's up. Oh
well,
wow.
George used to be really good at track and field. Do you remember that video game?
Yeah.
And you want to tell that story, George?
Check this out, John. All right, so I just could move my fingers quick, you know, and you need the fingers to run and jump and this and that. And so people would take out pencils and combs so that they could kind of use the teeter-totter effect. You know, you put it over your index finger, and then the 3 fingers on your left hand are basically pushing down so that, you know, the comb or the pencil is pushing down there, and then you're using your right hand to hit the other side. I would still use my fingers. Others would use, again, the comb, the brush, whatever. And it didn't matter. I was pretty good. Like you. I was a G in my arcade, right? All of a sudden, I walk in on a Monday, and, like, I'll give you an example. The 100-meter dash, my record was like 9.96. I mean, it replicated real life, you know? And so if I ever broke it, it was like 9.95. All of a sudden, I walk in, and some guy ran like a 9.10. I mean, he just obliterated. And not only did he, because I had the first, second, and third record, you know, the high scores, he obliterated all my records in the long jump, the sprints, everything. And I couldn't figure out how, you know, because it just made no sense. I knew no one could, if someone could move their fingers faster than me, that's fine, but not that much faster, a whole second faster. So I'm just a kid in high school, you know, and I'm trying to figure it out. And finally, some kid calls me, and it was like Saturday night, 1 a.m. This guy was more of an adult, you know. He was going out to the arcade, and he was going when, by that time, most kids were going home, you know. What this guy did was he had a Snoopy toothbrush, the electric toothbrush, and that little steel bar that goes into the head of the toothbrush, he would remove the head of the toothbrush, and he would drill that into the pencil, right? The pencil that would kind of go horizontal or perpendicular to the toothbrush. And so all he had to do was use his left hand, and that thing would vibrate so fast, it would kill anybody that's using their fingers or the comb trick or the pencil trick or whatever. And then all he had to do was use the other hand to concentrate on when to hurdle, when to jump, when to do this, when to do that. I mean, on the one hand, he's obviously a cheater, but you have to give him his due, man. That was pretty fucking creative.
He's an innovator.
to come in with a Snoopy toothbrush as an adult and just clown all the records.
Damn.
So yeah, a buddy of mine caught him doing that. We confronted him, but what were we gonna do? You know, I was just like a freshman or whatever, and he was a big dude or whatever, and he kind of laughed it off. But there was really nothing to do. I mean, I sure as hell wasn't gonna go spend money on a Snoopy toothbrush. I just kind of had to let him have it. But by then, at least his trick was out, and his street cred went down.
That was the beginning of the USADA era in video games.
Yeah. Did he wiggle his nose on Snoopy's nose before he did it?
I don't know, man. I don't know. But I was pissed. I was pissed because he took down the Great Fly. That was my nickname, FLY, Fly.
Dang.
John, quick question for you. What were some of the tricks that Benil Dariush taught you for losing weight?
Man, that's a secret, bro. Just
really?
No, we just take we take tea, you know, a week of the fight, just so you can get. I mean,
like a green
if you're
tea?
cutting, yeah, like a green tea. If you're cutting, you know, sometimes it's hard to use the restroom, you know, because you're all backed up or just running dry. So one of the things that helped me, I mean, I think it was Australia where I was like flew overseas, and you know, I got there like a week, maybe like 7 days before the fight, but I was like, oh why am I holding so much weight? I was like 178 when I got there. And I was like, oh, you know, let me go sweat a bit. And he was like, hey, John, try this. So I took a tea, and then, man, I swear, if not 6 pounds, then 7 pounds I lost just by using the restroom.
Yeah?
Wow. Yeah, for
Holy
sure.
crap.
And I was like, hell yeah.
All over a tea?
All over tea,
Wow.
bro. It's because we're cutting so much weight, even though as much as we drink water. And that training camp, to be exact, was actually longer because I started in July. And that was when the UFC Manila fell out. And they put me like 6 more weeks, you know, in training camp trying to hold a peak. And, you know, it was just a lot of change in the body. Flew to Manila and then came back and then tried to restart the whole training camp again. So my body was ready to perform on October. So I just had to hold that peak, and, you know, a lot of the liquid in the system and just the way of eating habits and everything. I just had to. The only way of getting it out was the tea, bro.
Hey, was this you, John? I have a video.
Oh, jeez.
Pretty near, but I mean, I don't know. That's pretty high, though. Yeah, no, yeah, the tea was the game changer for me, at least.
Nice.
Is the tea? Can you be a little bit more specific on the tea? Like, what was in the tea?
Just like a regular green tea off the shelves. You can find it at the.
That's it, huh?
It's natural diuretic, though, right? Because that's the point, right? It helps
Yeah.
flush everything out naturally.
Yeah. I mean, you try to drink a little bit. Like, I drink a lot of like warm water, anyways. But, you know, just even if you heat it up, I'll put like apple cider with a little lemon and heat that up, and that helps too. It's in that kind of form, just to get everything processed and going.
So a secret like that, is that something that you guys kind of keep close to each other, or do you pass that on now to another guy?
Yeah,
How's
no,
that work?
it's not like a huge secret, but it's just like one of those handy tips. I mean, I'm sure you can find it online too as well.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that's John Tuck in studio with us, co-hosting today's episode. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Rush 93. Now, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk to Dewey Cooper, who will be in the corner of Kevin Lee, as Kevin Lee competes with Tony Ferguson for the UFC interim lightweight title on Saturday at UFC 216. That's the headline bout. So give us a few minutes. We'll be right back after this break.
compassion, common sense. These guys have none of that. You listen to them, so you're no better. I am awesome, though. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio gives you the best fantasy football analysis. They'll tell you which players you need to have in your lineup and learn how to make winning trades. Get expert fantasy football advice now more than ever on Sirius 210, XM87, and on the SiriusXM app. All right, our in-studio guest is UFC lightweight John Tuck. He has been with UFC for a few years now, fighting originally from Guam, as I overheard the chatter between Dan and John. What I didn't know, John, was that you had lived in Vegas in the early days when things were really starting to set up around here. Cobra Kai, Extreme Couture. Tell us about that time.
Yeah, no, I used to fly out a bunch and stay for summers and do some training camps out in Extreme Couture. But yeah, it was pretty wild going in there. I was only training, just a young gun, trying to make his technique shine. But I found out real quick that I gotta train even harder because I was getting put in there with like Vitor or Vanderlei. And I remember I just seen like Gray Maynard like a couple weeks ago, and he was like, "Yeah, it's been a long time." I was like, "Yeah, the last time I remember, you were beating my ass in training," but that was like in 2007. So I picked up a few tricks from then. And
wow,
yeah, Drysdale was still days, making
right?
his yeah. Tyson was going at it, spar a bunch with them. J-Ron was still making his name up in there, and I mean, actually, he was ready. He already had his name established and everything like that. But
yeah. George has beef with J-Ron now, right, George? Is it an official beef?
I do.
Dewey's there.
Nah, he was so nice and felt so bad that it wasn't a big deal, but Jay Haran called me Goes, and then to top it off, he mispronounced Goes. So I called him Martin Campman. He goes, "How you doing, guys?"
Yeah, Martin Campman
and I go,
was there.
"I'm all right, Martin Campman." And he goes, "Why you call me Martin Campman?" I go, "Why you calling me Goz when you really meant Goes? And in reality, I'm George." He goes, "Oh," and he gave me a big hug. And they were cool, man. The Extreme Couture guys kind of gathered around, and they saw me with my leg brace. So they were asking me about that, and it was just kind of cool to get out. I haven't been out of the house much because of this injury.
They were at Chipotle too?
But no, it was at Extreme Couture. Practice was about to start. But John, you're not kidding, man. Like, but that was the Wild West. It was like barroom brawl days where it didn't matter if a guy was 245. He was fighting a guy that was 170, and you guys are going pretty hard. So I mean, a lot of lessons learned since then. But still, at the time, the sport was still evolving.
Yeah, it was just breaking out pretty new, and Mike Pyle was there kicking my ass too. Everybody was kicking my ass, but I just showed that Chamorro power, that Chamorro heart, from Guam. So I was like, I'm not gonna let these guys bully me for too long, And who was another? Man, there was a lot of guys that were unknown and were just beasts. I remember going with Tim Credeur at the time, and
oh wow,
and he was getting ready for that Ultimate Fighter finale. I didn't know at the time, but I think he was all, we were sparring and everything, and he's like, "Hey, careful, I got a fight coming up," and he was like trying to take my head off. I was like, "Whoa, bro."
And you didn't have much of a background too. It's not like you had experience or fights or came from a martial art. You just went in and you went in. Why didn't you do the general classes and beat up on scrubs like me, man? Like, why didn't you?
Well, I mean, I was like 6 months to a year into training, and I went with a lot of experienced guys, and I was actually doing pretty good. So I knew that there was something, I wasn't going to doubt the fact that just with the extra hard work, I'd be in there sooner or later, right?
Right.
But, yeah, definitely good times.
And, folks, John's not messing around. These were the times where Extreme Couture had Kimbo Slice was there still. Jacare was still there. Vitor, Vanderlei, Forrest Griffin. I mean, it really was.
Kendall Grove.
I mean, there was a lot of
Frank Trigg.
Great fights behind the scenes that were going down when they had pro training. Yeah, exactly. The Shark Tanks. I'm telling you, man. I remember seeing Mario Sperry there. But I'll tell you what. Let's put that chatter on hold just for a second. Our second guest has called in. Dewey Cooper. He'll be in the corner of Kevin Lee on Saturday. It's UFC 216, headlined by Tony Ferguson and Kevin Lee, as they both fight for the interim title in the lightweight division. Of course, the world champion there is Conor McGregor, who at this point we don't know what he's doing. Is he boxing? Is he coming back? Is he still in Ibiza? I don't know. That's why they've inserted the interim title belt. Now, Dewey Cooper has also fought in mixed martial arts, in boxing, and very notably in kickboxing, acquiring world titles there. Joining us now is Dewey Cooper. Hello, Dewey. How you doing?
Hey, guys. What's up, man? Good to be here.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you very much for doing the show. We've talked to you back in the day when you were a fighter. Now we get to talk to you as a coach. Dewey, tell us, how excited are you? This is different from you. You've always competed in big fights across different combat sports, but now you're going to be cornering Kevin Lee, in the biggest fight of his career, and probably the biggest fight maybe that you've had in mixed martial arts as a coach.
Yes, definitely the biggest fight in mixed martial arts up to this point. I had some bigger fights, I had Jesse Vargas fight Manny Pacquiao last November. I had my undefeated kickboxer Amir Abdallah win a world title, WKA world title last year too. But this is definitely my hugest MMA event up to this point. And, everyone's excited about it, but we're confident that we'll be victorious this Saturday night.
Talk to us about how you and Kevin Lee first met. How did you guys cross paths? We know the story of him moving out from Detroit, and, of course, you've been in Las Vegas for many years, but in what gym did you guys cross paths and forge that relationship?
Well, it was much deeper than that. Kevin's mixed martial arts trainer is a fighter who actually lived out here for a while. His name was Sean Desai. I was Sean Desai. He moved to Michigan, opened up his MMA gym, and Kevin started to train with him. Once Kevin got the UFC deal, he wanted to, go to a more advanced area like Vegas, and it was only natural that my old student put me on. He told Kevin, come train with Dewey the Black Cobra Cooper. He's the best guy for you. So I was actually Kevin's first trainer. When he came to Vegas, he came, and we started training immediately. Then he went to Couture's gym to get his ground game even better, and we forged a great team with Robert Forrest and I. But I was recommended through his trainer in Michigan, Sean Desai.
Did you see? Sorry, sir. Did you see a world champion on day one, or at least the potential for a world champion, or was this kid really raw? Did you not know what could possibly go down as him being such a great lightweight and getting to this point that he's fighting for a world title?
Man, I've been doing this fight thing for 33 years. I started when I was 9 years old. So, I'm pretty good at assessing talent.
Right.
I knew he would be a really high-level MMA fighter because he had great wrestling. And it's an oxymoron. Even though I'm a striker, I understand the dynamics of what it takes to be a really great mixed martial artist, and I love guys with a wrestling base. I knew after about a year to 2 years of striking with me, his striking would be on an MMA world-class level. And with that wrestling to complement what he learned from me, I knew he'd be a champion at some point. And that point is coming into fruition this Saturday night, man. He's improved in every aspect. He trains hard, he's dedicated, and he has that unrelenting confidence in himself. And that's that final element that it takes to become a world champion.
I wanted to ask you about that. So Kevin obviously he's got a great personality for selling his fights. Some say he's cocky, some say he's just confident. But aside from all that, a lot of these fighters, sometimes they move on or whatever. And how have you been able to keep him grounded, even though he has the potential to be a superstar and could be a superstar on Saturday night and going forward? The trajectory is, off the charts for him. But how do you keep him grounded and make sure he's doing his hard work and not letting superstardom, get in the way?
Well, Kevin's a very intelligent guy, first of all. And we've had our trials and tribulations. We lost one fight together, and that was against Santos. I think that was a fight that was needed, and that he learned a very valuable lesson from that fight, that we have to take every fight as if as if it's our last fight and take every opponent seriously, or they become serious opponents. So having that little downfall actually helped him evolve into a more mature, more intelligent fighter. He respects me because he knows my fight pedigree. He respects Robert Fowler because he knows his coaching and MMA pedigree. So he never gives us attitude. He's a really studious guy in the gym. He respects us. He listens to what we have to say. He does everything we ask of him. So he has no ego in the gym. His confident personality is a true personality. It's not some made up Conor McGregor act. He just believes in himself. He's put forth the hard work and dedication to truly know his abilities, and it'll all show this week, man. So no matter how big of a star a person becomes, as long as they respect the game and respect their team, they'll stay grounded and do all the right things.
Dewey Cooper, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He'll be in the corner with Kevin Lee on Saturday night at UFC 216. It is a pay-per-view. Kevin Lee versus Tony Ferguson is your headline bout. It's for the UFC interim title. All right, I'm going to send it to the boys in studio. Goes, Dan, Tom. We also have UFC lightweight John Tuck there with them. Guys, what do you have for Dewey Cooper?
Dewey, I know that when Kevin came into this, we all got to meet him as a wrestler with a good wrestling pedigree, but he's had so many improvements in that striking and in the submission game. Would you say that those improvements have actually caught up to the wrestling game now?
Theoretically, I hope so, but he's been wrestling since he was young, so he has many more years of wrestling than he has of his submission game and his striking game. So, you know, honestly, probably not, but he has taken huge strides in the submissions, as you see, and the striking, as you see. I mean, how many wrestlers are landing head kicks against world champion kickboxers? How many wrestlers are tapping out black belt jiu-jitsu guys with rear naked chokes and taking their back and stuff? So he has evolved in the submission and the striking area, but when it comes down to it, that good old-fashioned American wrestling will be permanent and will always be his go-to.
Have you thought about that moment, right when you give him that last hug before he goes into the cage? Have you thought about what it is you'll tell him?
Absolutely. You know, I believe in the KISS method. That means keep it simple, stupid. So we've already told him what he needs. You know, we've already told him what he needs to hear. He already knows what the goal is, what his mission is, and what needs to be accomplished this Saturday night. So I'm just going to hug him and say, be sharp and be smart. Sharp and smart. If we do those two things, guys, he's going to be the interim lightweight UFC world champion for goddamn sure.
Now, Dewey, I got to ask you kind of back on the whole team here. Now, obviously, you've got a lot of experience, you know, in combat sports, especially from the striking side of it. But with MMA being mixed martial arts, it's safe to say it's probably a little more of a conjunctive effort of coaches. You have to work with a grappling coach, strength coach, so on and so forth. Now, Robert Fowler has been quoted saying that you two gel incredibly. Can perhaps you speak on working with Robert Fowler and maybe just, you know, the difference of maybe getting an MMA fighter ready and having to share that coaching perspective?
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely a different dynamic, you know, because I train world champion boxers and I train world champion kickboxers also, which is more a solo effort. Even though I have a team, my nephew, Big David Hayes, is my strength and conditioning coach for all my other fighters, my boxers and my kickboxers. But the mixed martial arts thing is a little different, but it's not weird because I'm a humble guy. I have confidence in my pedigree, and I already know Robert Fowler's pedigree. So if two guys who are expert masters at what they do, if they can't get together, it's obviously a problem with one of the other guy's ego. Robert has no ego. I have no ego. So, I mean, it's been a perfect effort, you know, conjunction with us both. We talk daily. We crack jokes. He's a lot funnier than I am and a lot wittier than I am. But we have a great relationship, man. You know, Robert, he trusts that my striking is conducive for mixed martial arts. and I know his wrestling and his submission game is conducive for creating champions. So we have a great relationship. We plan on keeping that relationship strong in the future. I got a guy from Russia who just came out. Actually, he's from Uzbekistan who just came out, named Mahmoud Miradov. He'll be in the UFC real soon, and I called Robert right away and said, I want you to be his ground coach because we have a great relationship. And, guys, one little extra bonus. Robert Follis and I haven't lost a fight when we're both in the same corner yet, and we plan on keeping that intact this Saturday night and having Kevin Lee raise that lightweight UFC World Championship.
Now, that's an interesting stat. All right, so you and Robert undefeated. I love it. And Dewey, one last question here, and of course we appreciate your time here on Fight Week. Kevin, riding high on the confidence, already stating that it'll be up to him if he gives Conor McGregor a shot next. Is that what you want as a coach? After, state the case for why Kevin and Conor should be next. There's the Khabib Nurmagomedov name, and then of course there's other possibilities out there, but do you feel like that will be the next big fight for Kevin to unify with the champion? I want people to hear it from a competitor like yourself, why unifying the belts is more important than these money fights that sometimes just alter the way the sport is ran.
Well, I'm not looking past Ferguson. We have one objective. That's this Saturday night, defeating Tony Ferguson. Once that happens, anytime there's an interim championship, who they consider the real champion should take it offensively and want to fight the interim champion. It shouldn't be a doubt, because if you're the person you think you are and claim you are as a world champion, you should take it as disrespect that someone else is even considered a champion in your weight division. I'm from the old school where champions always want to fight champions. There are big money fights and all of that, but there's nothing more important than defending your title. And that's why Kevin has come to the conclusion about Conor. He's not even interested in defending his belts. Why win belts if you aren't going to defend them? He has one fight in the lightweight division. Kevin has 9, 10, 11 fights in that division. Same with Ferguson. So these are the real guys who are pounding the pavement at the lightweight division. And these are the guys who should be recognized as champions. Since Conor has the title, we have to respect that. He should definitely fight the interim champion next, and then go for your popular money fight or whatever you're going to do after that. Because there's nothing more important than having one reigning champion without a doubt of anyone else. So if we're going to keep all fights pure, we have to have champions, one champion in each division. And if there's any interim belt, it should be automatic, just from having the mentality of a champion. I'm going to smash him because there should be no one holding another belt in my same division. So hopefully Conor will feel that way. I know Kevin feels that way. That's why he's interested in a Conor McGregor fight once he beats Ferguson. But, let's be real, guys. Everything in life can't be about politics. Some things have to be about the purity of the sport. Some things has to be about the integrity and the character of the sport. And champion fighting champion, there's nothing bigger and better than that.
Perfectly said. Thank you, Coach, for the time here on Fight Week. We really appreciate it. Good luck on Saturday night at UFC 216.
Thank you, guys. Man, Kevin's ready. The team's ready. We're looking forward to a successful night. If you want to see some cool videos, go to my Instagram account, DC Black Cobra. DC Black Cobra. I'm also training Francis Ngannou. He'll be fighting Overring UFC 218 in Detroit. So I got some exciting things going in the future, and man, we expect success in every endeavor. Thank you guys so much for having me.
All right, thank you, Dewey. Take care. And folks, give him a follow on Twitter as well, at Dewey Cooper. Folks, we'll be right back after this break. Folks, that was Dewey Cooper, one of the co-head coaches for Kevin Lee, as Kevin Lee takes on Tony Ferguson on Saturday, UFC 216. And speaking of UFC 216, we have a couple streams to give away, courtesy of Fight TV. We'll see. We may give one away today. I don't know. I just got the announcement. I want to give the appropriate plugs, but I want to thank Fight TV for allowing this to happen. We gave away some streams for Canelo versus Triple G, UFC 215. I'll have a couple to give away for Ryzen Grand Prix Part 2 coming up as well. So, we got you. We just got to make sure that we spread these out nicely throughout the week. We have 2 to give away, and we'd love for them to fall in the right hands. So thank you to Dewey Cooper for his time. We also have John Tuck in studio as our co-host, UFC Lightweight. We'll find out what's next for him. I'll poke him and see if I can get a good arcade street fight story. Lots coming up in the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. Stay close.
Viva Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas.
like anything was possible. Hit cruise control and rub my eyes. The last 3 days, and the rain was unstoppable. It was always cold, no sunshine. Yeah, running down a dream that never would come to me. Working on a mystery, going wherever it leads.
here we go, guys. Don't miss your spot. Is John Tuck doing it?
I think I heard him do it. This is what I picture Mike Pyle doing at the gym, grabbing people's asses.
It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. And that is, of course, the great Tom Petty, who passed about 24 hours ago. How sad, man. That guy really put out some great music. You guys know me. I love the EDM stuff. I grew up with West Coast 90s hip-hop, so I went through that phase. The British invasion of the 80s new wave. So really, rock and roll was something I dug, I guess, but from a distance. But, man, I'm telling you, Tom Petty did it right. I mean, he had these songs that, regardless of whether you liked rock or not, you just like Tom Petty. So what a fucking loss for this country, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's a really cool video that I like. It's a Beatles song. What is it? While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Yeah.
But Prince, Tom Petty, Steve Winwood, and Jeff Lynne, and I think Carlos Santana all did it together.
Oh,
it was
nice.
really cool the way they did it. So you can catch that on YouTube and check that out. It's a really cool Tom Petty moment.
I have to check
All right,
that
as
out.
we wait for Paul Felder to call in, he'll be working for Fox this week. Let's take some calls. If I'm not mistaken, I think we have some on hold. Danny, maybe update us there. Who do we have?
We have Brandon in Louisville, Rodney in Vegas, Marco in Waco, and somebody else just called that I haven't screened yet.
All right, well, none of those are really big names, but we'll get to them anyway. Let's start off with Brandon in Louisville. What's up, Brandon?
Hey, guys, any chance that Dan Tom's the club owner from Night at the Roxbury just going around asking everybody if they ever won the Grand Slam?
That sounds like it, right?
That's a good reference.
Guys, first of all, I promise, you have my word, I will abide by the rules for today's show. Just want to say I'm glad you're all safe. Love you. Good to hear you back on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
Real quick for Gigi, and you can answer yes or no, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Okay.
I know you had some offers to go out. Are you glad that you turned down a chance to go see USC in public Saturday night?
What's he saying, guys? I don't get it.
If you're glad that you turned down going out to watch the Trojans.
He's talking about last week, the Washington State game?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, Sammy the Squid had asked me to go. Yeah, okay, I get it.
Paul is
that was a tough loss, but I'll tell you what, Brandon, I've watched so much college football that I prepared myself, that I knew we were going up there and it was going to be tough because Wazoo's no joke. I still thought it was a winnable game, but what hurt us was we literally lost 3 offensive linemen on an already depleted line. So it was almost like when our quarterback got sacked, he got rushed. I just kind of expected it. It sucks to say because as a fan, you always want to stay positive and feel like you can win every game. But part of me knew that if there was one game that might trip us up, it was going to be that one.
All right, and I do have a question for John Tuck, if he's there.
Yes. What's up, bro?
Now I know you're only fighting in the continental U.S. Was a 178 against Lee. The Puerto Rico thing coming up is really brought to my mind. And have you or any of your other teammates, from Guam, have you ever had anybody chanting USA against you during your fight? Because that's just one thing that always irritates me, the USA chant during a fight. And, it's like, I guarantee there's some stupid people that don't even know that, just because he's from Guam doesn't mean he's not a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, it's always a funny thing that, I mean, not really funny, just funny how people are uneducated about U.S. territories and that we're U.S. citizens. People always like, oh, where are you from? I'm like, from Guam. Is like, is that its own country? I'm like, I mean, it sounds cool and all, but no, we're U.S. citizens, and they're like, do you have to apply for a visa? I'm like, no, we're U.S. citizens. Like, we fly direct, But haven't heard anybody chant USA against Guam, or that at least I can remember.
It's always that chant that breaks out, during a fight, and even sometimes weird. It's like a Canadian guy against a guy from Azerbaijan, and they're like, USA, USA. I'm like, we're fucking Canadian, you Jews. What the hell are you? All right, guys.
All right. Thanks for the
Thanks,
call, Brandon.
Brandon.
Thank you, bro.
Who's next?
We have Paul Felder, I believe, is on hold, right, Danny?
Oh, Paul Felder. He's ready to
Yes.
go. Okay. All right.
He
We'll
was
get to the calls in
a
just
little
second.
late because I think he dialed in slow motion, right, George?
Yep. Paul Felder, UFC lightweight, is joining us now on the program, except this week he's going to wear a different hat. He is going to be working the Fox Sports desk, so he will be an analyst for the UFC 216 card. He joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. What's up, Paul Felder? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? How are you?
Doing great. Look at you, man. You know, we spent a few days with you out in Virginia. You never once brought up the fact that you were going to really, really dig into this broadcasting game. You know, we heard, I mean, we obviously had seen the 8-week run on Dana White Contender Series, and next thing you know, you're out in Pittsburgh. Now you're on the Fox desk. How about a little bit of a heads up or a wink or something?
Well, literally, I had the Pittsburgh thing. We talked about that, and that was kind of, you know, let's get my toes in the water, and, you know, the guys at the UFC were just testing me out a little bit. It went really well before the end of the night on that Saturday night after the Rockhold fight. I had an email about the desk job, so it kind of all happened right away. So, I mean, I got that offer literally that night after the UFC Pittsburgh. So that I didn't know that. You know, it kind of all came out of nowhere. Obviously, I would have told you guys.
I know. We're just having a nice poke at you. But seriously, we couldn't be happier for you. And you did a great job on that Pittsburgh card, my man. So congratulations. You like we told you before, you did a great job with Dana White Contender Series. And now this will be some analyst work there throughout the weekend. And, of course, the prelims are on FX at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We got Bobby Green and Lando Venata, Will Brooks and Nick Lentz, Cody Stamen, Tom Duquesnoy, Pro Gonzalez, Poliana Botelho. But, of course, you are definitely going to be chiming in on all of the fights because that's the one where you guys are there Friday, Saturday, all hours of the day chiming in. So we definitely look forward to that. Paul, let's talk about the big one within your division. Tony Ferguson versus Kevin Lee, my man.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be jacked, not only to watch the fight, but to analyze the fight. Tell us what you see.
Yeah, I couldn't be happier that the amount of lightweights that are on the card. I mean, they're kind of sprinkled throughout the whole thing, and then obviously there's a main event as well. I'm stoked for that fight, man. I had a conference call with some of the producers from the UFC, and Tyron Woodley was on the line with me too, and everybody kind of has a different feel for how that fight's going to go. I really think the experience edge obviously goes a little bit towards Tony and his unorthodoxness and his toughness. But Kevin Lee, man, he's made it pretty clear that the toughness of Ferguson only means he's going to take a longer beating, according to him. So I think those guys are going to put on the show, man. They're both world-class guys. I want to fight them both eventually. So I can't wait to sit back and let them beat the crap out of each other. And I don't know if they're going to be able to finish each other, to be honest with you. I think it could be a long 5-round, very competitive fight between those two guys. They're both super durable, super good cardio, and they're both talented all around the board.
So, Paul, if you can explain kind of a little bit in layman's terms to the audience, they're going to hear that a lot this weekend, the experience that Tony Ferguson has. Not only does he have more fights in the UFC, he had that one key fight, I believe, versus Rafael dos Anjos in Mexico where he went the whole 25 minutes, something Kevin Lee has never done. And that is at a high altitude. So, I mean, he really pushed his body very, very far against a high-level former champion in Rafael dos Anjos. Can you explain that valuable experience that Tony had in that fight and maybe some of the other fights that maybe Kevin Lee is just starting to get warm to? He did have a great fight, a great win over Michael Chiesa, but there's still a difference between the level of competition that Tony has and Kevin Lee and what Tony has seen through logging more time in the octagon.
Yeah, man. Until you've been in there for that long, which I haven't, so I myself can't fully explain it, but just being through grinding training camps and knowing what it's like to go 25 minutes, 30 minutes with other guys that are on your level, man, it becomes a mental game, and I think that's where Ferguson really does have an edge in this matchup, just because I think he's a little crazy, first of all, and I think that helps him in the fact that he is not afraid to go to war with people. He's not afraid. He was not afraid of Dos Anjos at all, man. He went 25 hard minutes at altitude with him and clearly beat him and took some of his best shots that he's ever given somebody in a fight. So I think that's in the back of his mind going into this. And Kevin Lee is super talented. He's strong. He's got crazy reach for that division. It's like 78-inch reach for a guy that's only like 5'9". It's insane. But, you know, I think when you beat up on a guy and maybe he just doesn't go away, we're gonna see a lot about where Kevin Lee's heart and his mental toughness come into play, because I think he's going to have to really grind into that 4th and 5th round to try to put away a guy like Tony Ferguson. So until you've been in those deep waters, man, it's like, you know, running a marathon. If you haven't done it and you're like, oh, well, I've trained a little bit for one, I think I can do it. Well, you don't know until you know, and you get to that point where you get that runner's high and you just push through it. Tony's been there. He's pushed through it already. We're going to see if Kevin Lee can. I'm not saying he can't, but we're going to find out on Saturday night.
That is an excellent analogy there about the marathon. You're so right. And this is Paul Felder again, folks.
Job,
This is Paul Felder, our guest here, who will be working the desk this weekend. Remember, the fights are on FX, so check your local satellite and cable listings. If you have DirecTV like Goes and I, it's channel 248, if I'm not mistaken, right, Goes? We're huge FX fans. Currently, Snowfall is one of my favorite shows. 8 p.m. Eastern Start Time. Let me turn it over to the guys in studio. Goes, Dan, Tom, and UFC lightweight John Tuck is also with us. So what do you guys have for Paul Felder?
Well, Paul, when I'm been going back and forth on this main event, much like how you said on that little conference call, if you play the game of check marks, where you have to put a check mark under striking, wrestling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, speed, power, where would those check marks land for you when it comes to the main event?
Yeah, I think wrestling, I'm going to give a check to Kevin Lee. Even though Tony's an established wrestler, I just think polished-wise and explosiveness and athleticism, I'm going to give that to Lee. Striking-wise, even though Kevin Lee's becoming a very good kickboxer, I'm going to give it just because of his unorthodox style and his ability to throw combos and not stop. I'm going to give it to Ferguson. And power, I'm going to give it to Kevin Lee. But like durability and just sustainability and cardio, even though Kevin Lee's in super good shape every fight and he's never shown a gas tank problem, I'm going to give that just based on his prior performances and things that we talked about with George, just the 25 minutes at altitude. I'm going to give that to Tony Ferguson. So it's pretty even, man. Power and athletic ability for Kevin Lee with the wrestling, but the weird striking and the nonstop pace for Ferguson. And jiu-jitsu, it's close. I'm going to call that a toss-up. I'm going to say both guys are good in their own way, and it's just very different styles of jiu-jitsu.
Another fight that we're very anxiously awaiting is Derek Lewis and Fabricio Verdum. A tragedy like Hurricane Harvey, in Derek Lewis's world, do you feel like that was more of a tragedy that maybe might have taken away from training time, or can he maybe look at that as something where he can draw some strength, some motivation that he can call on Saturday night?
Yeah, man. I think when you go through something like that and you go out of your way to help your own people and your own, state and city like that, I think it's going to give him a mental edge, because I feel like he's one of those guys that's not exactly doing 6 workouts a day. I feel like he's still got his work in. He did his thing as a heavyweight. He's not cutting weight crazy or anything like that, even though I think he does a little bit, but nothing crazy. So I think he's going to go in there with a sense of purpose, and have a little more motivation behind him. I know, for me, like, you guys know when I was going through the stuff with my father, that was obviously, it slowed me down in the beginning of camp. I had a lot of things to go through, but you just keep thinking about that one thing that drives you. And for him, it's the hurricane and helping everybody out and going through the tragedy he went through. So I'm going to say it's going to give him a little bit of motivation and an edge.
Paul, Dan Tom here. First off, man, I just got to say you absolutely killed it at UFC Pittsburgh. I remember talking to you out in Virginia before you were doing it and getting prepped, and Not that you were worried at all, but man, you really went out there and did an awesome job. It was really pleasurable seeing all the positive feedback from not just homers like myself, but the rest of the Twitter community. But I just wanted to question, with getting prepped and doing these analysis things, so on and so forth, what has it brought to your game? They say when you teach a class, whether it's jiu-jitsu or traditional martial arts, you learn that technique better having to teach it. Now having to analyze the complete game, the game that you still compete in, are you getting any kind of extracurricular benefits, you could say, from it?
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, it really has been helping me in the way that I've never been a guy that watches a lot of tape on my opponent. That's not like always is my thing. I kind of have that Cowboy Cerrone mindset about it. Like, I'll let my coaches do that shit. It freaks me out a little bit. I get a little anxious. I start overthinking things. So it forces me to have to do that. And I end up watching everybody. I mean, by the time I'll have done this for, 6 months, I'll probably have seen most of the rosters. You know what I mean? From guys who just got signed to guys like Hector Lombard on the Pittsburgh card who have been around forever. And I get to see the little mistakes, the things people do well, where maybe people are gassing out, where it's hurting people, and I can say to myself, what do I need to do for my next fight that so-and-so didn't do? And, oh, man, so-and-so killed it, and he had a great performance. Like Gregor Gillespie, I think of him, he looked fantastic. He's in my division, and I start thinking, like, all right, this motherfucker's on his way up. What do I got to do to prepare for that kid? And I see people before they're even getting mentioned on Twitter, really, because I saw them fight on the prelims, or I saw them fight on Fight Pass, or I watched their fight back when they were in Legacy or CFFC, you know what I mean? So I get to just study everything, and it's something I was never really into anyway, so it's making me a better student.
Paul, we also have John Tuck, UFC lightweight, in studio with us as a co-host today. He's got a question for you. John, what do you have for Paul?
Hey, what's up, Paul? It's John. What do you
What's
think?
up, buddy? How are you?
Good, bro. Good. Haven't seen you since Contender Series. But
yeah.
how's the life as an analyst, and what can you say to maybe give me an extra boost to get on that seat next to you on Saturday night?
Man, yeah, just keep doing these things, man. I was on there with those guys. That's just great practice. Any kind of interviews and work you can do outside of the cage, when you're not fighting, the more work you can do, and just even practice at home, you know what I mean? Like, look at fights and think about how you would break that down, and do, like, you know what I mean? Like, when you see, Kenny Florian and Tyron break down the keys to victory and things like that, like, we got to do a lot of that this coming weekend, and stuff like that really helps you kind of practice for that, because it's really, it's not easy to just think of that stuff. You got to actually kind of go through tape and look at it. And if there's any organizations that you're close to or fought for before you were in the UFC, hit them up. Be like, yo, let me do some color for you, get some practice. You can always send the producers at the UFC, just hit them up. Be like, look, here's the tape of me doing this analyst work. You give me a shot on the desk, and you get that one shot, and if you feel comfortable, you do well, and get your shot.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I appreciate that.
No,
I love all of everything about that. So it's just I'm just pulling at you. But the analyst I think it's a great thing that you're able to go in there and break down different moves and understanding a fighter even more so than just being a fighter.
Yeah, it's cool too, man. Because you know how sometimes we're waiting around forever. Sometimes you'll fight 3-4 times a year, and then other times, depending on how the division's going, like, we're kind of all blocked up right now with what's going on. But who's going to be fighting for the real title? We got the interim title coming on. Everybody's kind of matched up in the top 15. It's kind of a weird time for the lightweights right now. So any extra work like that you can do to keep your fighter brain kind of working without just grinding at the gym. Obviously we got to be training and staying active, but it keeps you active in the mental side of it without breaking yourself down too much. And it's kept me like, okay, I haven't been pounding too much for who's next and stuff like that, which normally I would be going crazy, but I've got a lot of stuff kind of keeping me focused. So it really does help keep you occupied. And I did it before I got a shot with the UFC doing it. I was doing it for Cage Fury Fighting Championships out of Atlantic City.
Oh, nice.
That's kind of where I came up before I got the call. So that's why I say that's a good place to kind of get started. It's hit up like the top regional promotions or even the smaller ones, just to kind of get on the mic and call 10 fights in a night, 12 fights, and get used to it.
Nice.
Yeah,
Paul, we want to thank you for being on the show. I know you got a busy schedule, but thank you very much for joining us on MMA Junkie Radio. Good luck on Saturday. You know we'll be watching and rooting for you.
Thanks, guys. Hey, keep those toilets safe, okay?
Thanks, bro.
What's that?
Keep those toilets safe.
There you go. All right, buddy. Take care. Thank you, man.
On my crew from Virginia.
That's right.
Come on.
All right, see you, Paul.
Easy,
Take
Paul.
care. Shout out to John Stauffer from Fox for lining that one up. I think we may have gone over. Apologies. Man, couldn't be happier for Paul. You know, a lot of people don't know this, but he has an acting background, and he studied that. And I wonder if that comfortability in front of the camera, in front of people, auditions, helped him, because when he basically, you know, he got started through Dana White Contender Series, he went up against others. He mentioned some of the names to us of other fighters that also went up there and tried out, and so he probably beat out about 6 to 8 others, former and current fighters, and then he got the role in Pittsburgh, and now he's with Fox Sports. So I just wonder if that may have helped him. John, you were expressing some interest. I thought Paul gave great advice, and it's true. Not to plug us or anything, but just you being here with us and fielding calls from listeners, asking questions to fellow fighters, or in this case, an analyst. It's just about, you know, being comfortable. But what I did like that Paul said is, any organizations you may have competed in before the UFC, lob a call at them and say, hey, you need somebody? I'd love to get in there and give it a shot.
Yeah, no, definitely. I always watch the people that done the analysts, and so I was just like, I'm a fight nerd myself, so you know I'm always studying people. Like Paul said that he wasn't really into studying people before fights, but I think for me I have to obsess about the person that I'm fighting, just so that I can understand them even more so beyond the fight itself, just so that I can actually tap in, and you know, you want to break them at their mind, and you want to get in there and give it everything. But as an analyst, I think it's even just as nice, because you get to break down even more so, and then express it to the world on whatever platform that you're on.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, John, we're going to give you your first assignment. We're going to give you homework. In about 15 minutes, we're going to ask you to analyze Demetrius Johnson versus Ray Borg. This will be for possibly record-breaking title defense for Demetrius Johnson. We're going to take some calls and then eventually a commercial. We're going to take the calls right now, but we'd love to lean on you and see what you think of that fight, especially because you're a guy that competes in the cage, and I'm sure you're familiar with some of the lighter weight fighters. All right, let's talk to, in the meantime, Marco from Waco, Texas, who's been on hold for a while. What's up, Marco? How you doing?
Marco from Waco, que pasa datos, Dan and John.
What's up?
Yo.
Hey, let's clean house a little bit. Happy belated birthday, George. You know, we couldn't catch you last week. Hope your patella tendon is healing well. I was thinking about you guys when that crap in Vegas happened on Sunday. I know that you don't like country music, so chances are you were not on the concert, but still, you guys on Mandalay Bay, we have history there. Let's talk about UFC 216. We got the mightiest of smiles.
Wait, what am I, chopped liver? My birthday was 3 days before George.
No, you're not chopped liver. You're more like a filet mignon goose, man.
All right, thank you. All right, go ahead.
The mightiest of miles is going to break the record this weekend. I have no doubt about it, man. I mean, as good as Ray Borg is, 10 others couldn't do it, and those 2 of them are Joseph Benavidez and Henry Cejudo. I don't think Ray Borg got what it takes. And when it comes to Tony and Tony Ferguson, Kevin Lee, it's going to be a nice shiny belt, but from my point of view, it won't mean too much. I mean, it's nice to have, Kevin Lee's toes. You have to defend the honor of the title, but if you ask Conor McGregor, you're going to make probably $35 million or $40 million fighting ideas, and maybe only 20 fighting Tony or Kevin. I think you take the additional $10 or $50 million, and neither one of you will talk about that $10 or $50 million extra. If this is a money game, brother, and I understand it, I'm a purist, I want these guys. I want Tony and Kevin to make themselves the money fight. So please, whatever happens on Saturday, open your mouth, pick a fight, poke the bear. Otherwise, that unification title ain't happening. Peace out, guys.
See you, Marco. Let's go back to back. Let's also take Scott in Utah. What's up, Scott? How you doing?
What's up, boys?
Hi, Scott.
What's up, man?
Hey, guys, was your birthday Wednesday? Last Wednesday?
No, I think mine was on a Friday, I think, right? Yeah. Oh, it was the 23rd. I don't know what day that landed on.
I caught up on the shows this weekend, and I was watching a Thursday show, man, and you look like ass. You're struggling to stay awake, yawning your ass off.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
I heard about that. I was really, really jacked up, man. Yeah, it was a long week, dude. Really bad. I think I had to take a nap during the show or something. I don't remember.
You left and came back.
Neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah. I like birthdays.
All right. to get to UFC. Hey, I've heard like a lot of other shows, Hawani and what's the other show? I forgot. But they keep on mentioning that the UFC product's getting watered down because there's too many shows, and so the product's watered down. And they're saying the new TV deal comes up, they might lessen the amount of shows. But if they do that, does that mean they're going to have to cut their roster? From like 500 fighters to 300 fighters if there's going to be less shows?
Yeah, there won't be enough spaces. As it is, a lot of fighters want to fight more often, and they can't because there's just not enough spots. Right now, actively being filled is UFC 218. I saw another fight booking go down. I think it was Alex Oliveira fighting somebody. And then we heard Dominic Cruz and Jimmy Rivera on UFC 219. Cub Swanson versus T-City, Brian Ortega, at the, I guess it's a fight night show in Fresno, and that's sandwiched in between the Detroit and Las Vegas shows. So pretty soon they'll turn the page and get to January. But if you're a fighter right now in early October who wants to start a 3-month camp, or at some point just maybe get on maybe the early December card, you got to be pushing to get a call from the matchmakers, or maybe making the calls themselves. And I know a lot of fighters that are in that spot. A lot of the female fighters have complained that they only fight once or twice per year, because the UFC usually tries to have at least one, maybe two women's MMA fight on every card. So yeah, it's easy for us to say it is watered down, and I don't disagree with that. It makes sense. Of course, if there was less cards, the fight cards would be even more stacked. But there are a lot of times where we go through a whole month, or we go through a few weeks, and we turn to each other and say, is there a UFC? Is there a Bellator? And you almost find yourself going, damn, that kind of sucks. I mean, there really is something about a fight night, whether it's a fight pass or whatever. We just get maybe a little bit more excited. But a lot of those are, that's where stars are born. That's where we first hear about a lot of these fights that are happening. So, careful what you wish for if you do want less fights. I personally kind of like 40, that number 40. I don't think I'd want one every week, but I personally like that number of about 40 per year, or maybe 42 or whatever it takes.
I kind of like that too. I think that's the sweet spot, maybe.
Yeah, and I actually look forward to those fight night cards because you see the up and coming talent. Like that Japanese card was pretty good. That Pittsburgh card was great. So yeah, I'm like you. Be careful what you wish for. But all right, with that, I'm out, guys.
Okay. All right, we'll see you, Brian. All right, maybe let's take this break here right now that we got to do. Pay some bills. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Marco wanted to talk a little bit about Demetrius Johnson versus Ray Borg, and that, of course, goes in line with John Tuck's homework assignment. We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about that since we didn't get a chance to touch on that fight with Paul Felder. All right, folks, stay close. We'll be right back.
link into the MMA Junkie Radio Network. Hit us up on Twitter.com at MMA Junkie Radio. This is MMA Junkie Radio. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio gives you the best fantasy football analysis. They'll tell you which players you need to have in your lineup and learn how to make winning trades. Get expert football fantasy advice now, more than ever on Sirius 210, XM87, and on the SiriusXM app. We're joined by John Tuck, a UFC lightweight. He's in studio with us right now. He's in town to corner Benil Dariush, and he's been co-hosting here for the entire episode. So, John, let's cover a couple things here. What's next for you? Have you signed on to take on a fight in 2017 or 2018?
Man, I've been waiting. After my fight with Takanori Gomi, I didn't get touched in the fight, so I didn't have no injuries. I didn't get touched in the fight in Singapore, so that was in June, and then I knew they had the fight in Anaheim, and I heard Sage Northcutt's opponent fell out, so I was like, hey, I mean, he's got a huge following, and you know, I could take it into deeper waters by taking him to the ground, and you know, just to capitalize on that. But I guess they didn't like the fight and didn't materialize. But yeah, I was trying to get on the UFC Japan card because, you know, I fought Takanori Gomi, and you know, he's a huge he's a legend in Japan, so I thought maybe they would want to put me on the card just to use me in the area, because I'm only 3 hours away from the place, and I think Oliver Aubin Mercier was looking to fight on the same card, and I was like, hey, that's cool. I'd love to fight another up-and-comer as well, and he's got a good following too, but they didn't book me on that fight nor him, and so I'm just kind of trying to figure out how or when is the next fight, and who would it be, and how are we going to game plan for that person, and you know, just staying sharp in the meantime till then. And
from your end, you've been actively trying to get on some of these cards, so it sounds like it's like a one-way street. You're reaching out to the promotion, but they've yet to come to you with any sort of opportunities or bout agreements for you to sign.
Yeah, no, they just mentioned like where would I like to fight, and it worked out for me if I fought in Japan, because you know, I was just priming for that point, and then nothing materialized, so I was just like, gonna enjoy my wedding and get a little bit chunky, you know. And
so where do you want to fight now that you know, the Japan card is come and gone, and like I mentioned earlier, Detroit's starting to fill up. Well, the end of the year here in Las Vegas, is there you have your eye on a certain card, fight card that you'd like to fight on?
I mean, anything in November, and anything in, well, Detroit would be nice, you know, because I'd like to fight on actual, like, maybe 218, right? Is that what it is? UFC 218?
Correct.
I fought Kevin Lee, so, you know, I got some kind of following in a sense for Detroit, and or some familiarity over there, and yeah, it's a pretty big card, so why not? I'll fight there too.
You did bring up Kevin Lee, and we of course remember you fought him at UFC 178 decision, I believe. It went his way. He was the winner that night. But what can you say about Kevin Lee, who I believe you also stated during today's show that you'll be rooting for him, because it definitely rises your stock. But overall, what do you think of Kevin Lee as an opponent? You know, is he stronger than he looks? Is he tougher than he appears? You know, what's your personal scouting report, having shared the octagon with him for 15 minutes?
You know, just that night, I to be honest with you, it just didn't go my way. I would have beat him if there was 2 more rounds. From the nut shot in the beginning of the middle of the first round, that took a lot of steam out of me. Felt like throwing up, but you know, couldn't back down. You know, I'm a fighter at heart, so just had to suck it up and just keep scrapping away. And they took a point from me that they didn't even the ref wasn't even clear about that. And I barely even nut shot him, so I was kind of confused about that. And then the third round, my mouthpiece came out in the middle of the round, and I tried to catch it real quick, and he caught me with a head kick, and that's what kind of gashed me and made it look more dramatic in a sense to give him the win. So everything was against me that night, and I mean the great thing about it is it's awesome to see him get up there and fight in the for the title, and rooting for him. He is a strong fighter. He does have a long reach, but I didn't feel like we're too far off apart. I feel honestly that if it was another, if it was another shot at it, I think it'd be a different story. And but again, I'm rooting for the guy. He's a great fighter. He's young. He's a stud. He's a super athlete. So I just gotta give him that support. Share the octagon with somebody, and you just want to see them take off. And
John, earlier you talked about video games and arcade games, and you kind of mentioned something about as a kid you saw your fair share of our fights in an arcade. And of course, on our show, we really do like to ask every one of our in-studio guests if they can share a good street fight story. So we were going to get to this at some point anyway, but blending the two, do you have any street fight stories you could share from the arcade? I don't think we've heard an arcade street fight story, or if not, just anything that a story from your past.
Yeah, I do remember when I was a kid growing up back in Guam. A lot of people go up to the arcade spots over there. I think it was like Fun Fair or something like that back in the day, and a lot of skateboarders would come and play. And I think it was either Tekken or Street Fighter, but one of them got sour and hit the other guy up the head with a skateboard.
Whoa!
And they started scrapping, and it was a whole scene.
Oh, the guy didn't go down from that?
No, he didn't go down.
I would have ran if I hit someone with a skateboard in the head and he didn't go down. That's my cue to get the hell out.
It's kind of like in Guam you got that coconut head skull, so you can take a punch.
I was gonna say, who did he hit? Cabbage Correa or what? Wow. That's a noggin there to take that.
Yeah, they were just scrapping at it, and the security got involved and separated them, and then I think they went out and scrapped in the parking lot as well. So yeah, I was just a kid. I was like, dang, okay, my turn. Let me go play now. You guys are gone. Let me go get my quarters and tokens and slam those in there. Get on the way.
Now, John, you shared a street fight story that you've seen. How about one you've been in?
Honestly, I don't really get into a lot of street fights or anything like that. Just getting ganged up and people try to bully me and try to take advantage, just because I was always a nice guy growing up. I mean, I still am, but it's easier to pick on the nice guys, right? But
right.
There's many things, man. Many times that I've got false crack from a dude because I was just with a person who wasn't so popular with certain people, and I'd just be a victim of the in the environment,
false crack? What's that?
False crack, when they blindside you. So one story was
cheap shot?
Yeah, cheap shot. And one guy, one of my friends was, I guess he had some beef with some guy, but they looked like they were cool, and I was just like standing there just minding my own business, not really paying attention. And there was a couple other guys, and then there was a little gang that swooped up on him, and one of them false cracked me, and I was like, it just got a little like just that little flash of light, and I was like, okay, what's going on, just try to square up, and everybody's like, hey, what are you guys fighting for, blah, 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 just trying to like break it up or whatever. But there was at least about maybe 15 to 3 of us, so we just backed up, and it was kind of like a eventful situation where people were around, so didn't really materialize into too much. And I mean, later on the cops got those guys, and they were all crying on their knees because they got punked out. So I was just like, whatever.
Did you
and it was a little guy too, and I was like, man, I wish I could have smacked you, but whatever.
You never saw him again?
No, I never saw the guys. It was just funny. It's just funny because you never expect. But I always try to stay focused now, even more so, and just like watch my surroundings and area. And but I've been to many, not street. Well, a lot of things that happen on streets, where I was always on the bad end of it,
Hey, let me ask you a silly question. I know you're a professional now. You're a pro fighter, but if you ran into that guy, like let's just say nobody's around, and you ran into him, and he kind of gave you a wink, like I remember you. I'm the guy that popped you that one time. Would it kind of be on?
Nah, I'll be like whatever.
Not even
bro.
like a shove or hey, you're lucky or anything.
I was like,
No
you know, I
cameras,
just
nothing.
understand that it's a totally different story now, you know,
Yeah.
and it's just like whatever, you know, he got lucky. Maybe that's his claim to fame, you know what I mean? Oh, I once beat that guy up. They usually have those, you know, those OGs talking on the side, drinking their beer, and yeah, one time, or yeah, that guy was weak growing up or whatever, you know what I mean? They just anything to latch on to you to try to make them look better is, yeah, so whatever. It's just cheap, you know.
You got willpower, man. I think I would have found a skateboard. And
Yeah, I always say, you know, like sometimes I run into people and then like they don't know what I do or anything, but some maybe bigger guys, and they look at me and then like give me the what's up look with their head nod, and I'm just like, hey, what's up, bro? You know, it could be at a concert or whatever. And the guy would just be like, hey, what's up? And they'll start walking to me, and I'm like, hey, listen, bro. I don't fight for free, bro. If you want to do it, like, let's put like 40 G's down or something. Make it worth it, you know?
40 G's, you got to
At least, you know what I mean?
God
Like,
damn.
if we're going to get in trouble, like, at least put some money involved, you know? So, like, you know.
Yeah,
we
but
go-
even Kimbo only fought for like 5 years. You're up to 40.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I
You're
mean?
pacing
Like,
yourself
I'm
out
not trying to
there.
risk nothing, you know? Like, let's make it serious. But, and then I show the guy, I'm like, hey, bro, like, listen. And on top of that, I'm drinking water, so you're already screwed from behind.
Mhm.
You know, so it's just funny. And then when you bring out the money, like, hey, I don't fight for free, they turn the other way, and they're like, you know, I'm messing with you, you know. I mean, what do you mean by that? So it's
Right.
funny. It's just that
I like
mental jiu-jitsu.
Is the mentality that we always talk about with Hawaiians, is it similar where they're just saying, hey, when we're born, we're kind of born to scrap. That's just how it is
Yeah,
in
dude,
Hawaii.
it's
Is it the same way in Guam?
definitely in Guam. Yeah, we're island boys, you know. We're just like cowboys, but on the islands.
But aren't you guys supposed to be chill? You got beaches.
No, we
and
definitely
all that.
are chill, but you know, just sometimes, you know, we want to see who's the biggest chief out of the
I
squad
gotcha.
or out of the tribe or out of
Yeah.
the island, you know. So it's just in that kind of sense. You know, competitions everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
But
There you
yeah,
have it.
some
All
funny
right.
stories.
Let's get our last break out of the way, and then when we come back, we will touch on Demetrius Johnson versus Ray Borg. We'll get John's thoughts on that. Maybe a final prediction. Kevin Lee versus Tony Ferguson. We know you're rooting for Lee, but we'd like to see what you think. How's it going to end? As we wind up and wrap up this show today, Wednesday, October 4th, it's MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Rush 93.
King Kong has a lot of shit on them. Like a lot. Especially Goes. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
All right, I'm going to push John Tuck a little bit harder. John, who do you want to fight next? Gomi already came and went, but is there a name out there that you'd really like to get your hands on what we've narrowed down to maybe Detroit being a card you'd like to fight on December 2nd, UFC 218? Is there a name?
Is there a name? There's no exact name. We're just looking out for who's going to help bring me up into the, closer to the top 10 rankings, because I've been in the UFC since 2012, and had so many ups and downs, but I just feel like I'm right there and somebody that can help elevate me into that top 10. And I want a worthy opponent, and a opponent that even on paper maybe looked better than me, so that I can take that into the next fight.
How about the winner of Will Brooks and Nick Lentz, or Bobby Green and Lando Venata?
I'm cool with that. I'm cool with either. I mean, I know I mentioned that Oliver Aubin Mercier was a guy who wanted to fight in Japan, and people like that judo jiu-jitsu matchup, so that could be possibly and he's a southpaw, and I love I've trained a lot of my life training against southpaw fighters, so it'd be a nice matchup. Nick Hine, I don't know what he's doing. I was supposed to fight him in Rotterdam before he screwed me and pulled out 3 days before the fight. Honestly, I think I heard from even like his old camp that he was kind of scared to even step in the octagon. So it was like, just a matter of time. He's got a good record, so I'd fight him again, or train for him. But sometimes it's like maybe I wouldn't even look at him because he might pull out of the next fight too. So it could be any of the guys that are on a good win streak, got good name and huge following that I can probably latch onto and help elevate me as well.
A little birdie told me that at some point, talking about Guam, you'd possibly like to get into politics. Is that how close are you to that being a reality? Like, for one, are you immersed in politics? Like, do you enjoy talking about it and following it? And have you been told that you get strong support? You do have some fame. You're early 30s, so you still have more years to fight. But like Manny Pacquiao, he's been able to do it while fighting. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think in 2015 it was I fought against Tian Bang, won the fight at night, and really showed what I'm capable of, and got that fight and got the win. Came back home, and about around that time there were people mentioned to me, it's like, hey, let's look at what you can do after fighting, or let's try to get you into the game. And I'm not really huge into politics. I just believe that if I became a senator, or I mean, even as far as becoming the governor, of course I have to get deep into it and study a bunch, but I didn't pull the trigger on it because I was preparing for my fights. And but in the case that it does, I know I have a huge support system that will help get me at least up to senatorial status, and I'll just use it. I'm not so political, but I just use the platform to be a voice for the people that are unheard, and do good things with that platform as well.
Very cool. All right, guys, can you stick around for just 2-3 more minutes?
Yeah.
Danny Olkers?
Yep.
All right, so let's the audience can hear the music. This is about the time we wrap up the show, but we really do want to get your opinion on Demetrius Johnson versus Ray Borg. So we're just going to stay 2-3 minutes of overtime, and then we'll be done. Sirius XM audience, obviously you'll get additional combat sports and entertainment programming here on Channel 93. For anybody that ever wants to catch the overtime or watch the video that we do put out that accompanies the show, it's youtube.com/MMAjunkie video, or we're on Facebook, facebook.com/official MMA Junkie. So we're going to do a soft exit here. So long, Sirius XM audience. Tomorrow we'll be joined by Daniel Cormier and probably a few more other guests. And on Friday we'll be joined by Uriah Faber. So just looking ahead a little bit towards the end of this week. Don't forget, on Saturday night, we have a Fight Companion broadcast via Sportscaster, the latest app where you can become the broadcaster of your own type of show. And what we'll be doing, myself, Goes, and Dan Tom, is basically watching and reacting to UFC 216. We'll talk more about that. But download that app, Sportscaster. We'll be right back in a few minutes. Sorry, in a few seconds with some overtime.
You guys clear for overtime.
All right, John, just a couple minutes here. We really appreciate you coming to the studio for a couple hours. So we've taken up a lot of your time, but a lot of the fans want to know, what do you see happening between Demetrius Johnson and Ray Borg on Saturday night? That's the co-main event feature at UFC 216.
Yeah, it's an exciting fight, exciting matchup between two super athletes that are going to lay it out there on the line. I know it's huge for history of MMA, especially that Demetrius Johnson is going to bring up the title defense to a record, and I'm looking forward to the fight. It's going to be a high-paced action fight between two guys that are just as hungry as ever. You know, I mean, I know Ray Borg had to pull out of illness, and Demetrius Johnson is I know he's just going to go in there and do what he does best and come out as a champion. Ray Borg's a great fighter. I just don't see anything, you know, no disrespect, I don't see anything that Demetrius Johnson hasn't seen yet. If there was anything that might come about it, is that, you know, Team Jackson in New Mexico is already prepared for Demetrius Johnson how many times, so I know they got some little tricks up their sleeve, but
right.
Demetrius Johnson is all around specimen that I don't think anybody's going to be able to take him out from the top end. He's going to be making history through getting the championship on Saturday night.
So how do you beat Demetrius Johnson? What if you are part of that coaching staff, or Ray Borg asked you, what do I do here? I mean, I'm thinking, forget about 25 minutes, forget about deep waters, forget about letting the fight play out. I think you go for broke. Goes, Dan, John Tucker. What do you guys think? I mean, if there's one thing one thing we've seen from Demetrius is, as unhittable as he is, he has been hit. So, you know, these guys wear 4-ounce gloves. Ray Borg does have some power. I don't know that he's got the John Dodson type of power or anything like that, but still, I would say make this a round and a half type fight, maybe 2 rounds, you know, and if you go on your shield, you go on your shield. But over 25 minutes, it seems like Demetrius Johnson has too many skills, too many tools in the tool bag that he can use against you. So why not just go for broke and turn this into a sprint? What do you guys think?
I think that he's got to go for broke, but you got to go for broke for 25 minutes strong. I think if he can definitely try and out-grapple him. I know that Demetrius Johnson has a great grappling game because he trains with some of the top guys, like Bibiano Fernandez, or was training with him at one point. But I know that definitely you got to out-grapple him. I mean, I think the only person that came close was Ian McCall at one point.
Yeah.
And that was probably the toughest test to this day. But other than that,
Tim Elliott also gave him a little bit of hell too. Remember, guys?
Yeah. Oh, that's actually true. Yeah.
First round. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think once you figured it out, then it's just pretty much laid out.
Yeah, I agree. Dominic Cruz is another guy that had success, but that was also 135, and that's much more size and wrestling than what Ray Borg has. But, I mean, Ray Borg, you know, he has a hard time getting down to the weight, but the good thing is he brings a lot of strength to that weight class, 125. And, you know, he's got some very underrated wrestling. He closes the distance so fast that you go back and look at his fights. He really isn't forced to use his striking very much, unless, you know, the fight with Scoggins, I think, was the time where he had to use it the most. So if he can, you know, make it that dogfight, but in a grappling sense, I think that's going to be his best chances, because even though Demetrius is good, is going to create scrambles, Borg thrives in the scramble. So if anything, that's going to be his best shot there, you know, rolling around in the dust cloud with Demetrius Johnson.
Definitely.
Goes, you have
Goes, obviously we'll save his analysis for another day.
Who, me?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I've always said if you're ever in a jam and you need 5 seconds, just go, who, me? Sorry, I was putting out a fire. Daniel Cormier, George, just actually texted me right now as soon as you said that. He cannot make tomorrow, but he will be here 10:30 Friday.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Well, Friday's going to be a fun show with Uriah Faber and Daniel Cormier, but...
There you go.
Sorry?
We were talking about DJ, right? What you got to do to beat him? Yeah. Man, right now at this point, I think George might have mentioned this early on, but I definitely think you got to take risks, and you just got to be unorthodox and get in there and really give him everything you have from the get-go. Don't hold back at all. I think it's the only way you can take that fight to that guy, because that guy is always prepared. He's always going to give you an honest fight. If you're ever going to put your money down on a fighter, I would say you feel best about putting it down on John Tuck. But then after John Tuck, it's got to be Demetrius Johnson, because the guy always gives you an honest fight.
It's true. It's hard to argue with that.
Well, we'll definitely dive into it a little bit more during the week. And John, you're rooting for Kevin Lee, but how do you think he gets it done if his hand is raised on Saturday night?
Yeah, it's got to be a tough, grueling scrap. How he's got to get it done, he's just got to lay the pressure on Tony Ferguson. Got to close the distance, and even inside the distance, you got to watch out for those elbows and those knees. Don't get caught up in no clinch unless he's activating the takedown, and he's got to just lay on top and smother him. And I feel that he can submit him if he wanted to, so he's just got to keep the pressure on him and keep going strong, and that's how he'll get his hands raised. But other than that, I think the experience got to go to Tony Ferguson, so you just can't give him any ounce of respect. No holding back and just let go.
John, I want to thank you for coming in and co-hosting with us. It's been a fun time getting to know you a little bit better. We've done a couple on the phone, but this was our first time in studio. Obviously, I'm talking about Goes and Dan. I didn't get a chance to go down there because of my injury, but thank you so much, man. I thought you did a great job, and if you're ever in Vegas and would like to do this again, we'd love to have you. I hope you get the fights you're looking for, whether it's Abi and Mercedes or anybody else that you have your eye on, or maybe those matchups we were talking about, the winner of Vanada, the Vanada fight, or the Lentz and Brooks fight. Those would be some good ones for you. So again, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you to Paul Felder and Dewey Cooper. And tomorrow we will have some fighters your way, some guests. We'll lock it in somehow, one way or another. Daniel Cormier has been moved to Friday's show, so Friday will be fun, and he will be in studio. So for Danny Okers back east, our producer, Dan, Tom, and Goes, I'm George. You guys have a nice day, and we'll see you all tomorrow with another edition of MMA Junkie Radio. Until then, go out there and be champions.
We said all